Sarah Wilson was terrified I'd run away, so she chained me up in the mansion with a 150-foot iron chain. "Big brother, please don't be cruel and leave me all alone," Sarah would plead sweetly and obediently during the day. At night, she'd secretly drug my food or use sleep aids on me, claiming it was to help me rest better. One night, as I slept soundly in bed, Sarah snuck in quietly. She pulled back the covers and slipped in, burying herself tightly in my arms to greedily breathe in my scent. When Sarah was 5 years old, tragedy struck her once happy family. Her parents passed away, and their wealthy household was devastated. Little Sarah was taken in by her aunt, but those people only wanted the inheritance her parents had left. Living under someone else's roof, Sarah endured constant abuse and scolding. She went from being her family's beloved little princess to a despised outcast overnight. This was the first turning point that began to change her. Meanwhile, in a parallel world, I was brought to this world by a mysterious system that appeared out of nowhere. I could only return after completing specific tasks during certain time periods. The first time I met her was when she was 6. She was too young then to understand why her aunt's family disliked her. The confused child was bullied and forced to do all kinds of chores and hard labor. The second time I saw her was in her first year of high school. The pretty young girl was an easy target for bullying. Her unfortunate family situation had made her introverted, closed off, and rebellious. This was the longest time I stayed, 3 months. Using the identity of a transfer student arranged by the system, I gradually guided her back on track. I turned her from a delinquent who skipped class and got into fights into a top student. The third time I came to this world was on Sarah's 18th birthday. It was close to college entrance exams, but the girl's condition was getting worse. I had been on vacation at home when the damn system suddenly woke me up, saying Sarah was in trouble and I needed to hurry over. It said, "Sarah is sitting on the roof right now. Her emotions aren't good. Hurry and go check on her." I stood not far from her, watching Sarah standing on the edge of the roof. It took all my effort to trick the girl into coming down. I made her promise to get into a good college and gave her hope. If there's anyone to blame, it's myself for making such big promises back then. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. After getting her down from the roof, I took her to find a place to stay. At the hotel, when I first brought her in, the girl was incredulous at first, then unable to hide her excitement. Since neither of us had ID, we went to one of those small, older single-room motels. But after entering the room, I just sat on the sofa watching her sleep. Her previously excited expression instantly disappeared. "I'm already 18. I'm an adult now," Sarah said with seductive eyes and a somewhat resentful tone. Seeing the girl's serious expression, I found it a bit amusing. "I know Sarah is 18 now, not a little kid anymore," I said. The girl before me was in the prime of youth, like a flower bud about to bloom. That exquisite face still carried traces of youthful innocence. But in my eyes, she was like my little sister. After all, I had watched her grow up. Seeing I didn't understand her meaning, Sarah's face showed some disappointment and reluctance. "Today's my birthday. Big brother, will you stay and sleep with me tonight?" she pleaded, burying herself in my arms. Where I couldn't see, the girl's eyes held an obsessiveness and possessiveness beyond her years. Originally, I wanted to refuse, as it didn't seem right. But remembering it was her birthday, I couldn't bring myself to say no. After thinking it over, I agreed. She obediently lay down on the bed. I half reclined on the edge, my hand gently patting the covers just like when I used to lull her to sleep as a child. I didn't notice anything amiss, and the girl closed her eyes happily as usual. Just when I thought she was about to fall asleep, Sarah suddenly opened her eyes. "Can you not leave? Stay with me always? Will you spend all my future birthdays with me?" Hearing this, my expression tightened. I wondered if she had figured something out. But on second thought, that shouldn't be possible. Every time I approached her, the system gave me a different identity. "All right, Big Brother won't leave. Big Brother will always stay with little Sarah," I said, speaking words that went against my heart while comforting her. Hearing this, Sarah's face lit up with joy. She extended her slender little hand, making a motion to pinky swear with me. Unable to resist her persistence, I reached out my hand to humor her. When our hands of different sizes touched, Sarah stared intently at the joints of my hand, lost in thought. I was confused and asked, "What's wrong?" "It's nothing. Big Brother, you'd better keep your promise. Otherwise, I'll have to punish you," the girl said, coming back to her senses. Then she reached out and hugged my waist, burying her head in my chest to greedily breathe in my scent. Seeing her bold actions, I was stunned for a moment. But just then the system's voice sounded in my mind, and I knew my time was almost up and I had to leave soon. So I softened my heart and let her be. The night deepened, and Sarah's breathing gradually steadied. The system's voice kept sounding in my mind, and the silver bracelet on my wrist flashed incessantly. I gently removed the girl's hand from my waist. Sarah was hugging me very tightly, and it took all my strength to get up from beside her. The silver bracelet on my wrist was flashing at an alarming rate. I looked back one last time at the small figure on the bed, let out a sigh, and then my form vanished from the spot. The room was quiet for about a minute. Then Sarah, who had seemed fast asleep on the bed, suddenly opened her eyes. Scanning the empty bedroom, an immense feeling of loss washed over her. "You lied to me again. Next time I catch you, I'll have to punish you properly," Sarah said, her beautiful face showing an abnormal, twisted expression. It had been 3 years since I returned from Sarah's world, and the damn system hadn't made a peep in all that time. According to the original storyline, the next part of the plot was that Sarah, as the villain, fell hopelessly in love with the male lead at a banquet that was supposed to help the romance between the protagonist couple bloom. Her misfortunes in childhood, her uncle's harsh treatment, and all kinds of discrimination and prejudice at school had made her originally obsessive, vicious, and cold. It was precisely this decisive and ruthless personality that allowed her to navigate the cutthroat business world like a fish in water. But going against the female lead ultimately wouldn't end well for her. According to the original plot development, Sarah fell for the male lead Jason Foster, while Jason had feelings for the female lead Olivia Carter. Because of her love at first sight for the male lead, she later became business rivals with the female lead. In the end, she was no match for the destined female protagonist, plus the male lead's favoritism towards Olivia. Sarah ended up with her company bankrupt and her life in ruins. The turning point this time was at that banquet. Sarah was drugged by a competitor and found by Jason in a confused state. Out of kindness, he took her to the hospital. After that, Sarah fell madly in love with him. After hearing the system's narration, I was silent for a moment, then asked in return, "Haven't I changed anything with all I've done before?" The system hemmed and hawed for a long time without giving a clear answer, finally just telling me I'd find out when the time came. For some reason, I had a bad feeling about this. The bracelet on my wrist flashed again, and that familiar feeling came over me. When I opened my eyes again, I had arrived in a familiar place. I found a mirror and saw that my appearance hadn't changed at all. In the past, every time I met Sarah, the system would make me the same age as her and then slightly adjust my features. The direction of the adjustments was different each time, though. I was only surprised by this for a moment, then didn't pay it much mind. As long as my appearance was different each time, so she couldn't recognize me, the rest didn't matter much. Following the system's prompts, I took a taxi to the hotel hosting the banquet. With the system's help, things like invitations were no problem. When I successfully entered the venue, I found the banquet had just begun. But I needed to quickly find Sarah. I had to keep an eye on her. I searched the huge venue several times, but didn't see any sign of that girl. However, from the discussions of people around me, I learned that Sarah had been doing quite well these past few years. Her business had vaguely reached the top position in the industry. Many of the attendees had come to curry favor with her. This wasn't right. As the villain, Sarah shouldn't be able to steal the female lead spotlight. Never mind. The priority now was to find Sarah. The banquet was already halfway through, and I had even seen Jason and Olivia. Just as I was starting to panic, the system, which had been a mere spectator until now, suddenly spoke up to tell me Sarah was in a certain private room. Hearing this, I was startled and hurried towards the room number the system gave me. I kept thinking I should still make it in time. I found the room number and easily opened the door. But when I entered, it was pitch black inside. I was about to turn on the lights when suddenly a sharp pain struck the back of my neck, and I lost consciousness. I don't know how long I was out. When I came to, my neck was killing me like it was broken. As my senses gradually returned, I looked at the dark surroundings. Where was I? All right, I was looking for Sarah. Thinking of the pain in the back of my neck, I slowly understood. It seemed I had been knocked out. If that was the case, had the mission failed? Thinking of this, I started calling out to the system, but was met with only silence. Even at a time like this, the damn system was still playing dead. Just then I suddenly realized something was off. My hands and feet were bound by something, and I couldn't move. As I was starting to panic, a faint fragrance entered my nose. Feeling the sensation on my body, I realized someone was sleeping beside me. The pain in my neck earlier had drawn most of my attention, and only now did I see my predicament clearly. It seemed I was being held in someone's arms. That fragrance from earlier was emanating from their body. For some reason, the scent felt strangely familiar. As if sensing movement beside her, Sarah slowly woke up. In the faint light from outside the window, I clearly saw the girl's slightly chubby face. Compared to a few years ago, she had grown more vivacious and mature. Her alluring eyes had lost their youthful innocence and gained a mature charm. Seeing I was awake, Sarah turned and climbed on top of me. Without many words, she buried her head in the crook of my neck, greedily enjoying my scent. Feeling the strange sensation on my chest, I didn't dare move. Realizing I wasn't wearing much, and Sarah beside me was also scantily clad with large patches of snow-white skin exposed, I wondered if she had been drugged. Just as I was pondering this, a slight wetness on my neck drew my thoughts back. I wanted to speak up and stop her, but didn't know what to say. In a daze, Sarah moved from my neck to my chin, along my lips, and finally to the corner of my eye. I really couldn't take it anymore and questioned, "Wake up, Sarah. Do you know what you're doing?" Hearing my voice, the girl lying on top of me was visibly startled at first. Then, as if dissatisfied, she leaned down again and silenced my next words with her cherry lips. As if in revenge, she kissed very forcefully. I felt some pain and wanted to resist her, but couldn't bring myself to hurt her. Before long, a faint taste of blood spread in my mouth. She seemed even more excited by this, her hands exploring lower beneath the covers. Sensing her intentions, I instantly became uneasy. Though my hands and feet were bound, the strength of a grown man was clearly not something a young girl could restrain. Unable to do more, Sarah reluctantly withdrew her hands from below and repositioned them on my shoulders, angrily covering my lips with hers again. I simply gave up struggling. As long as she didn't go too far, I let her have her way with the rest. After kissing feverishly for quite a while, Sarah just lay still on top of me. The two of us were silent for some time. Then Sarah suddenly spoke. "Is everything ready?" Her sudden, inexplicable words confused me, until the door slowly opened. A woman in professional attire entered carrying a tray, walking towards the bed. She respectfully addressed the figure on the bed. "CEO, everything you requested is prepared. Put it on the table and have everyone leave," Sarah said coldly. "But this... Did you not understand what I said?" Sarah's voice was even colder than before. The assistant was visibly frightened. In all her years working for Sarah, this was the first time she'd seen her so angry. After putting down the items in her hands, the assistant meekly curled in on herself and walked out. "You promised not to leave me. You lied, so you have to be punished," Sarah's slightly coquettish voice came from above. By now I had caught on. She was clearly lucid and showed no signs of being drugged. Her mind seemed perfectly normal. Just as I was about to speak, my lips were sealed again, and a hot liquid kept flowing down my throat. My words cut off. I felt extremely uncomfortable in my throat and coughed violently. Sarah's long, slender legs straddled me diagonally, a fancy wine glass in her hand as she watched me like a spectacle. By now I was getting angry, but Sarah unhurriedly finished the last drop in her glass. Then she carelessly tossed the empty glass aside. It landed on the carpet without breaking. Why? I was confused, as if asking myself, wasn't I here to save her? How did it end up like this? "I waited 3 years to finally catch you. No matter what, I won't let you leave again. You belong to me." Sarah's possessive voice came from beside me, making my heart tremble. Just as I was about to feign innocence and pretend not to know her, Sarah's slightly lazy voice sounded again. "It's thanks to this thing that you could disappear without a trace each time, right?" Following her voice, I saw that somehow the silver bracelet representing the system had ended up in her hands. I was speechless. No wonder the damn system hadn't made a peep even at a time like this. It had been captured. I felt utterly exasperated. "Don't try to deny it. Be good and admit it, and I'll go easier on you with the punishment." Sarah's face flushed an unhealthy red. By now, I had also noticed something was off with my body. A fiery heat rose rapidly from my lower abdomen, and my face turned as red as a cooked shrimp. "What's happening to me?" I shouted at Sarah, my mind growing foggy. Those fools thought they could drug me. They really underestimated me. In the past, I only pretended to fall for it. But you never came. But thankfully, heaven was on my side, and I finally got you this time. My drug is 100 times more potent than those fools. The next stretch of time belongs to just the two of us, Sarah explained. Before my consciousness faded, I heard Sarah unlock my handcuffs and shackles, accompanied by the sound of tearing clothes and her extremely seductive voice. When I woke up again, I don't know how much time had passed. My head was pounding and my throat was parched. I couldn't muster any strength in my body, like a huge chunk had been carved out of me. After a while, I surveyed the room I was in. It was clearly not the hotel where I had passed out. Where am I? That crazy girl's house. I really hadn't expected that after not seeing her for 3 years, the little girl had gone even more insane. Was this still the same person who 3 years ago had looked at me pitifully with that obedient expression, begging me to stay? And that drug was way too strong. Though I didn't remember the process, just looking at all the red marks on my body was enough to imagine plenty. Just then the sound of a woman humming came from outside. From the sound of it, she seemed to be in a good mood. The door opened and Sarah saw me lying on the bed. We both froze, our eyes meeting in midair. I couldn't see a trace of embarrassment on Sarah's face. She walked straight toward me on the bed. When she saw the red marks on my chest, that delicate little face blushed slightly. "Honey, you're awake," she said. Her first words nearly made me spit out my last mouthful of blood. I choked and started coughing violently. She quickly ran over and patted my back to help me catch my breath. I raised my hand and saw I was still wearing chains on my wrist. Seeing my expression quickly darken, Sarah hurriedly explained, "I had no choice, honey. I was just afraid you'd run away again." "I won't run. Will you take these off?" I tried to reason with her. "No way. You've already lied to me twice. I won't trust you so easily again," she said. Then she knelt by the bed and started taking off her outer clothes, an unhealthy flush appearing on her face. "Stop, stop, stop. Let's talk this through calmly. No need to get physical." I hastily spoke up to stop her. "I'll listen to you, honey," Sarah said. Hearing this, Sarah stopped what she was doing. Under her long coat, her stunning figure was accentuated by that signature uniform. Combined with that angelic, exquisitely beautiful face, I doubt any man could resist her. "How long have I been asleep?" I quickly changed the subject, seeing her constantly moving closer to me. "You've been asleep for a day and a half. I have to say, that drug really works well. It's just a shame there wasn't more." "Looks like I'll need to stock up," Sarah said, her little face glowing strangely, her expression somewhat regretful. "My clothes? And I'm kind of hungry. Is there anything to eat?" I asked. When I finished speaking, Sarah excitedly ran barefoot to a nearby wardrobe, her snow-white feet pattering on the floor. She opened the wardrobe to reveal rows of men's clothing. Sarah picked out an outfit and placed it on the bed, looking at me expectantly. "How am I supposed to put this on? Why don't you unlock these first?" I gestured to the chains on my wrists. "That's not happening. If you can't put them on yourself, I can help you get dressed, honey." Sarah hesitated for a moment before refusing. "You've taken everything away. How could I run?" I said, somewhat exasperated. "So you admit it," Sarah said excitedly. "Why don't you tell me how this happened?" I was curious how she had recognized me. "I'm not telling you. It's a secret," Sarah said proudly. A few days later, I gradually got used to life here over the next few days. Aside from not being able to leave this mansion, the rest was like living in paradise. At 1 a.m. one night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, utterly bored. Though exhausted, I just couldn't fall asleep. I sighed and got up, heading to the living room. I poured myself a big glass of water and drank it all in one go. Annoyingly, after drinking the water, I felt even more awake. Oh well, no use fighting myself over it. I had nothing to do tomorrow anyway, just bumming around. Might as well find a movie to watch. No sooner said than done. I turned on the TV, adjusted the volume, grabbed some snacks, and settled in on the couch to watch contentedly. Before long, Sarah emerged from her room. Hearing the noise, I turned to see Sarah wearing a sheer lace nightgown, one smooth, long leg exposed. I glanced at her, and though I felt a bit strange, I had gotten used to it after so many days. This little minx had been dressing so boldly at home all this time, not treating me as an outsider at all. Not only that, she kept trying to sleep with me, but I had firmly refused each time. Seeing me sitting on the couch watching TV, Sarah was startled at first. Then the corners of her mouth turned up slightly, where I couldn't see. "What's wrong? Why are you still up watching TV so late?" she asked, sitting down next to me and taking my hand with concern. The girl's clear, fresh scent wafted through the air, making me feel a bit hot and bothered. I casually moved my hand away, saying somewhat awkwardly, "I don't know, just couldn't sleep for some reason." "Then I'll keep you company and watch too," Sarah said, lifting her legs to rest her feet on my thighs. Seeing me try to move away, Sarah shot me a terrifying look. After considering the consequences, I chose to give in. If she had just stayed like that, it would have been fine. But the trouble was Sarah started getting restless as we watched. Eventually, she ended up sitting directly in my lap. Her wandering hands finally stopped moving under my near-furious expression, and she sat quietly in my arms watching the movie. We silently finished the whole film like that. Looking down at the little woman who had buried her face in my chest and wasn't moving, I spoke up. "All right, the movie's over. Can we go to bed now?" I said. The huge living room was silent for a while. I looked down at the girl in my arms. Those long eyelashes lay against that pure, delicate, smiling face. Seeing Sarah was asleep, I picked her up and carried her towards her room. I gently laid her on the bed, looking at that familiar little face. The docile expression of the sleeping girl and that little hand tightly gripping my arm. Seeing Sarah's sleeping face, she must have had a tough time on her own all these years. The next morning, Sarah stretched comfortably in bed, then got up and walked out of her room. She saw the housekeeper approaching. "Miss, should we still put the excitation drug in the Sir's bowl?" The housekeeper asked hesitantly. "Put it in one more time today, but reduce the amount. If he uses the incense I gave him tonight, we won't need this kind of drug anymore," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. That evening, I picked up the incense Sarah had given me, thinking I'd give it a try. Just as I was about to light it, I suddenly felt something wasn't quite right, like I had overlooked something important. But thinking of that sleepless feeling, oh well, it's just some incense. Before lighting it, I made sure to smell the incense stick. There was only a faint, fresh fragrance, no other special scents. I lit the incense and lay down on the bed. Unlike before, fatigue quickly washed over me, and I fell into a deep sleep. Not long after, the tightly closed door suddenly opened. Sarah looked at the burned-out incense on the floor with some pride. She gently lifted the covers and slipped in like a little fish. Looking at me lying there with my eyes tightly shut, Sarah's face showed an infatuated expression. She possessively lay on top of me, doing things she didn't dare do in the daytime. "Will you come back after you leave this time?" Sarah asked the man beneath her somewhat anxiously. In my sleep, I unconsciously replied, "I won't." Hearing this, Sarah's heart tightened. Her exquisite little face flashed with dejection, followed by unprecedented determination. When I woke up the next day, I found I had actually slept quite well last night. I fell asleep soon after lying down, but I had a very strange, embarrassing dream. And the subject of the dream was actually that little minx Sarah. In the dream, she was all over me, and I couldn't resist. I can't think about this anymore. I quickly shook those unrealistic thoughts out of my head. Looking at the chains on my bracelet, after these past few days I had come to understand, I needed to quickly get the system back from Sarah's hands. Based on the current results, it seemed my task was complete and I could go back. But then again, looking at these chains made specially for me, I felt utterly exasperated. The other end of the chain was attached to a load-bearing pillar in this mansion. The chain was over 150 feet long, both restraining me and allowing me to move freely within the mansion. I had tried talking to this little girl about it, but all I got in return was her punishment. Apart from being confined here, everything else was quite good. I had food and drink, and all I needed, it was close to my ideal retirement life. This went on for a few more days. On this day, Sarah surprisingly took me out for the first time. Just as I was puzzled, she brought me to the household registration office of the police station. I was completely confused and couldn't help asking, "What are we doing here?" Sarah mysteriously told me, "You'll find out soon." With the help of money's power, a group of people bustled about in front of us. I just signed a bunch of papers. Looking at the pile of documents placed in front of me, it took me a while to understand that Sarah was registering me for household registration. My face was written all over with exasperation, but I didn't really care. I just went along with her antics. In the span of a day, Sarah dragged me from household registration to getting an ID card. It wasn't until we finally walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau that I understood this little girl's intentions. "What are you trying to do?" I asked. Sarah's eyes shone brightly. "Ethan Wilson, you are mine." The name was one I had used when the system arranged for me to enter her school during her sophomore year of high school. I didn't expect her to still remember it. I was about to turn and leave. Marrying her just felt wrong somehow. But suddenly 2 uniformed bodyguards appeared behind me, half dragging me to follow Sarah. "Are you sure about this? Are you certain you like me?" I felt that Sarah's dependence on me outweighed her liking for me. And according to the plot, shouldn't she be falling for the male lead? "Of course I'm sure. Don't try to find excuses to run away," Sarah said, directing the bodyguards to escort me into the Civil Affairs Bureau. And so a group of people brought me to take wedding photos. Back in the car, looking at the 2 red booklets in my hand, Sarah could barely contain her excitement. I didn't feel much, but seeing the little girl so happy, my mood inexplicably improved. Since I was already here, I might as well treat it as a vacation. I have to say, living as the young master was quite comfortable. I thought the days would continue on peacefully like this, until one day, while eating, Sarah suddenly felt nauseous and ran to the bathroom, retching violently. Seeing the girl's discomfort, I got up and went behind her, gently patting her back to help her feel better. We didn't eat much dinner, and Sarah, who usually clung to me, went to bed early. Neither of us thought much of it, assuming she had just eaten something that upset her stomach. It wasn't until the next day, when she kept feeling nauseous during a company meeting, that she went to the hospital for a checkup on her assistant's advice and discovered. That evening when she got home, Sarah rushed in clutching her test results. I've been living too comfortably lately, eating and sleeping a lot. When Sarah came in, I was napping on the couch. The girl hurriedly ran over, shook me awake, and held her test results up to my face. "Honey, look, I'm pregnant." Having just woken up, I didn't react immediately to this shocking news. I dazedly took the paper from Sarah's hand. When I saw the contents clearly, I sat bolt upright on the couch in shock. Sarah happily climbed into my lap and excitedly said, "We're going to have a baby." I finally managed to use the excuse of the baby's health to coax Sarah to go to sleep. At first, this little minx still insisted on staying in my room and wouldn't leave, so I had to sweet-talk her again. But the little girl wasn't falling for it this time. She said, "We're married now. Isn't it normal to sleep together?" I tried my best to persuade her, saying it's not safe to sleep together in the first trimester. We can sleep together after the baby is bigger. Thankfully, in the end, Sarah didn't argue further. She took the pillow from my room and went back to her own. That night, as I lay in bed, my thoughts were still reeling from the news of Sarah's pregnancy. When did this happen? Then I suddenly remembered that drug night. Sure enough, just a few days later, Sarah found all sorts of reasons to move into my room. At night, looking at the little beauty sleeping in my arms, I felt quite emotional. I glanced again at the silver bracelet on my wrist, equally puzzled. How did this little minx suddenly agree to give the system back to me? Wasn't she afraid I would run away again? But no matter what, the system was back. The bad news was that no matter how I called out to the damn thing, it wouldn't respond. Since things had already happened this way, I had to take responsibility. I just thought of my aunt who had raised me in my original world. Not my mother, but as good as one. In my original world, I didn't really have any attachments. I was an orphan raised by my aunt. Apart from worrying about my aunt, the rest didn't matter much. Fortunately, just as I was torn, the system gave me a choice of 2 options. Each year on specific dates, I could return to my original world for 2 days. Considering how much it had helped me, I decided not to hold its betrayal against it. But that's a story for another time. After 10 months of pregnancy, Sarah gave birth to our first daughter. It was a day of heavy snowfall, so I decided to name our daughter Winter. 1 month later, "Honey, Winter says she wants to drink some sugarcane juice," Sarah's voice called out just as I opened the bedroom door. I turned to see a large and small figure lying on the bed, 2 pairs of big eyes staring at me as I came in from outside. "Is it really her who wants to drink it? Or you little glutton?" I said fondly, pinching the gradually maturing beauty's face. Realizing what I'd done, she pouted and pretended to be angry, hugging our daughter. "Your daddy is bullying me, little Winter. Let's ignore him, okay?" Whether she really understood or not, Our daughter waved her chubby little hands happily in her swaddling clothes, making goo-goo JJ sounds that melted the hearts of the two adults. 6 years later, at the international airport, a woman in a black trench coat with a svelte figure and delicate features. Her left hand pulled a suitcase while her right hand held a cute 5 to 6 year old child. The young woman's clear and beautiful face was bare of makeup, yet still so stunning. The adorable child beside her was even more so. At such a young age, she already showed signs of becoming a great beauty. Her chubby smiling face made one want to pinch those cheeks. "Mommy, when can we see Daddy?" The little dumpling's childish voice piped up. Hearing her daughter's question, Sarah replied, "Daddy went to visit his aunt. Today is little Winter's birthday. Maybe Daddy is waiting for us at home right now." "Really? Then let's hurry home," the child said excitedly, running ahead. After dinner, the family of three gathered around a large pink cake. The little girl stared at the cake on the table with big eyes. "Daddy, I want to eat the little bunny on top." My daughter pointed at the chocolate decoration on top of the cake and wheedled. "All right, Daddy will get it for you," I said, reaching out my hand. Sarah, who had been gently watching me from the side, suddenly smacked my hand away. "What are you doing? She hasn't made a wish yet. Come on, little Winter, make a wish first, okay?" she said, sticking candles in the cake and taking a lighter from my pocket to light them. All very familiar actions. Our daughter innocently closed her eyes and started making a wish, just like she'd seen on TV. The family sat happily around the table. That night, Sarah lay on top of me and suddenly said, "Honey, Winter says she wants a little brother." I was nearly asleep when I heard her say that, and mumbled a vague, Sarah's eyes lit up when she heard that, and she started taking off her clothes. In my sleepy haze, I suddenly felt something was off with my body. When I opened my eyes, I saw Sarah looking at me pitifully with seductive red eyes.